So, hello everyone, it's us again. So,
Mm.
yes, welcome. Um, we don't have viewers yet, but it's okay. Let's begin. So, if you're watching this on replay, welcome to BLouRay Book Club's 16th um, live show discussion of Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. So, so this follows the story of Lena, who is from Lithuania, and she and her family, of course, were captured by the NKJV, which is like the armed forces of Stalin, who was like the president or the leader of the Soviet Union, and they actually traveled from Lithuania to Siberia, and the story revolves about their experiences being in, one of those labor camps, kind of like similar to Adolf Hitler's. So that's like pretty much a gist. So by the way, welcome. So this is louisity, okay, stream Smiley by Yena, and I have here my co-host.
Hello, my name is Ray from Rereads PH.
Yes, and we have here in the comment section, good evening, of course, our honorary,
Hello,
every
good
now and then
evening.
co-host, recharge with books. Kilala na kung sino yan.
Hello, good evening to everyone.
Okay, right. So to begin, all right. So alam ko na yung sagot mo dito sa unang tanong eh. And actually, this is interesting. This is very interesting. Overall rating. Sige, ikaw muna kasi ikaw yung kung sinusundan niyo naman po si Ray Reid sa kanyang mga social media accounts, ay alam niyo na kung ano ang marka na ibinigay niya.
Yeah.
So what will be your
Kasi
rating?
it's actually part of my reading vlog. So ayun. Again, I gave it actually a 5 out of 5 stars. I actually enjoy it. And just to share with our book club pala, this is our first time doing a historical fiction. Diba? It's our first time and medyo mabigat. It's really a heavy book. It's really an emotional ride. It is really a story about survival, about hope, about family. Kumbaga kung ano yung what will you sacrifice for the family? What will you do during the war, during this time, 1940, after the Soviet Union got the state of Lithuania. And it's really an emotional talaga for me, kaya I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. And I'm really curious with Luis kung anong rating niya because Luis is actually not really, or are you really reading historical fiction or madalang lang?
I'm just starting. Like I think
Mm.
the first one that I read was Mapping the Bones by Jane Lin. I actually got it in an event in National Bookstore because one of the speakers was a book blogger. If you know Just Read JM, he gave out like books for anyone who would ask a question. So that was the first, at least from what I recall, World War II. But in
Yeah.
terms of historical fiction per se, I think I read some before. The one that I'm pretty conscious of would be Bone Talk by Candy Gourlay, which is set in the Philippines. And but I've only read a few. I've read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is another good one. And of course, this one as one of them. It's a genre that I'm kind of like slowly, diving into. And actually, I think you answered the second question for our live show, which is as you read the book, what were your emotions? Okay, maybe you can elaborate with that later on. And I am going but before I say my rating, uy, si JMC, JM Cabral nga ba? Oo, kung si JM Cabral, oh. If yun lang ibig sabihin, Richard Cabral, oo, si JM Cabral. Yes, and so going back, so my rating, that's why I said it was interesting because I also gave this 5 out of 5, as in perfect
Wow.
5 out of 5. It was a perfect all kill. Yeah.
For the
Back,
first
back, back,
time.
back. But here's the interesting part because I'm going to answer like the second question like, what were the emotions running? it was definitely a sad like situation, obviously forced labor and all of that. But if I were, and pardon me, but if I were to compare this to the Nightingale, I felt more heartbroken with the Nightingale. Like the heartbreaking scenes
Agree.
was much more heartbreaking for me and heavy. Um, but like in terms of the overall like writing and execution, this one was done more seamless. It was very consistent. Like
Mm,
there was no dull moment, at least from what I recall from my reading experience.
mhm,
There wasn't any like sudden segues or like sudden, random insertion of like certain events. It was just seamlessly done. It was smoothly done, and that's what
mm,
I like. And I couldn't pinpoint anything that was like really like, oh, it lacked at this area and stuff. I was just like, I was rather intrigued. The emotions that were running in my mind is I was intrigued, like what was running, what you called it, what was happening basically about this time. I wanted to know more about this side of the war because there's like whenever we
mm,
talk about World War II or during the 1940s, we're focused more on like Hitler and like Hitler's more like the ones being focused. But I'm definitely interested more like what's the backstory between the Soviet Union. So I think yeah.
mm.
So anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Ray
Yeah.
Reads
Yeah.
PH?
I actually totally agree that the Nightingale is really more emotional, but the pacing of this one with I think that's really one good factor with Ruta's book. You can really see the development of each scenes. You will really follow it from the beginning up until the end. And yeah, with the Nightingale, actually that's my favorite historical fiction book. But yeah, it was really much more emotional. Maybe because the Nightingale has more twist at the end that you really did not expect. But with this one, since you really knew from the beginning that there is like a capturing World War II, and you really knew from the beginning that it will be more or much more emotional with the book, with what is happening, the weather itself, like and the timeline of this book is just really steady lang siya. Unlike with the
Mhm,
Nightingale, there is much more like flashbacks and other
mhm,
things.
mhm,
So with this one, kasi we are following just one timeline or like one or two timeline in the story. But yeah, just to add, the Nightingale is much more. I agree with you that the Nightingale is much more emotional, but the pacing was much better than with between Shades of Grey.
yeah.
Bubulol pa ako.
Oh. Tsaka dagdag ko lang din dun sa Between Shades of Grey, ang parang yung masasabi kong parang nagandahan ako bilang kwento ha, bilang pagsusulat, yung parang sabak agad. Like you notice in the first
Yeah.
chapter, it was like they were already being captured. There wasn't like sort of what you call this, like there's this because with the Nightingale I remember and I'm just trying to like figure out like what makes me enjoy a book. That's why I'm doing some sort of comparisons here. I know, yeah. Um, it's like with the Nightingale, they were still like more of a this is the family, and then suddenly their father was like going to be taken to war. This one's like, oh, come on, punta na kayo dito, sakay na kayo sa tren. Yung parang talaga agad-agad eh, agad-agad talaga eh. Walang parang honeymoon o parang di mo basta insert the word, yung parang walang ano na agad, sabak agad, dali-dali, ganun talaga agad.
Yeah.
Matindi na siya simula pa lang, pasabog na kumbaga parang gano'n.
Yeah, yeah.
And like the thing is, typically I'm not a fan of like flashbacks, but I really like how it was done here. Like it did make sense about like what was currently happening, and also it wasn't really too like to me there was a scene where I've thought like it wasn't like very sad, and I'm gonna look like in which chapter that was. Let me just hold up a bit because I did take note of that part where okay, hold on a minute. There was this part where I really appreciated, um, like in chapter 33, when they were like laughing and like they were just having like the time of like their
Yeah.
lives. So it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like one of those times when you're in a hard situation and there's like times when you're still
Mhm.
smiling. I really appreciated that scene on chapter
Mm.
33. So that really struck me when they were just like singing and like parang kumakanta lang sila, parang wala, parang
Mm.
ano, parang binabalik nila yung mga alaala nila sa Lithuania. Ganda lang.
Yeah, tsaka it's
Tapos
really ano, maganda rin siya kasi in the sense of they really meron silang resiliency and talagang kahit despite na magulo yung mundo nila doon, they still have time to celebrate something. And I believe 'di ba nag-Christmas pa sila. So,
Yun nga, eh, nagpapasko pa,
mm,
nagpapasko sila. Tsaka
mm,
parang yung eksenang yun parang hindi ko parang hindi yata yun Pasko, eh, pero yun yung parang, "Woo!
yeah,
Kanta lang tayo," gano'n.
mm,
Ganda nun. Oh, ito para sa ating guest commentator, color commentator. Color
mm.
commentator, love it. Okay. Ruta Sepetys writes from the heart. The research she's done really is conveyed to the reader. From a writing point of view, the book is emotional. Unfortunately, from a character's point of view, the height of emotions didn't reach the level from the author. Kumbaga medyo may konting disconnect sa emotions from the characters. Ray, ano masasabi mo? Bilang ikaw ang mas, very pinpointy sa mga characters. You
Characters,
know, you're the one who's like more driven by like,
or the characters.
the
Character driven. Yeah, I agree with Richard, no, parang, with the because it's really hard then, no, we are following different characters. We're following a lot of characters, the whole family, the whole somehow team. But for me, talagang merong isang character talaga ako na favorite ko talaga, which is yung mother, siya si Elena. So I just have to
Mm,
add that one that Elena's character really struck me. And other than that, um yeah, there are also characters that na yeah, it really feels disconnected. But for me, it's totally fine.
mm,
With this book with Between Shades of Grey, I'm really a character driven book reader, and for me it's really fine. I really do. It's okay. Parang hindi ko siya. Kumbaga, for me
mm,
personally, I did not get like the fact na sino nga ulit to? Parang kasi
mm,
saan nga ba siya? Parang gano'n.
mm,
Kumbaga, I really felt that, all of the characters in this book is really important. So, yeah.
yeah. And sa tingin ko lang din, parang si Lina, she has this like sort of a stoic kind of more like neutral kind of like if you watch PBB, the way the psychologist described Bea Saw, she's kind of
Mhm,
like that.
mm,
She's more placid. I mean, yes, she is a, but like her sort of fury isn't like I'm so furious. Like I mean, that's what I'm getting. This is what I just like thought right now, and then when Richard mentioned this, like I was like just thinking maybe it's because like there is something lucid about, or not lucid, placid about the character of Lena, which maybe that's why it wasn't like really a heart wrenching one. I just didn't really feel, I guess, as at least for me personally, heart wrench, which is it's not necessarily like a minus point for me because I'm like I don't think always these kinds of books have to be like heart wrenching per se,
mhm,
but like what I did pick out from these books is like it does like I always say like books are not, especially fictional ones, are not like an end all be all kind of like thing. So to me, what I liked about this book going back is that, and like the thoughts that were running through my head
mhm,
was that yeah, you kind of want to know more about like the governance of Stalin. Like it made you want to. I literally like right after was like searching about like gulags. Did I say that correctly? Gulags,
mhm,
the prison camps, the labor camps during the Soviet Union, and I think that at least for me that was like the good thing. Like I like the way that it was written. It's like I can't like pinpoint something that was like that really struck me like oh this was a this like the interesting because there's like a disconnect. Like to me, it's like there wasn't a disconnect at all in terms of the narrative per se. You know how I feel about. Alam mo naman yung nararamdaman ko, di ba? Pag
mhm,
parang ay parang wala, parang ito yung kwento, ito ako, tas may harang. Walang namang ganun
mhm,
na nangyari. Kaya wala akong wala. Binabasa ko siya. Maganda. Nasimulan ang aking taon. Una kong
mm.
basa. 5 out of 5.
Nice.
Tira to, Jack. Si I Believe in a Thing Called Love, sayang, muntik na eh. Naka 5 out of 5. Di ba, bongga?
Right. Mhm. Mm.
Ayan. So, okay, ikaw, may sabihin ka pa bago tayo magpatuloy at magtungo sa susunod nating tanong?
Yeah, let's go with the second with the
Okay,
question.
so, all right. What was your reaction when Lena found out that Andrews and his mother worked with the Soviets? Like, what was your honest reaction at nung nabasa mo yung bahaging yun?
Mm,
By the way, this is a spoilery discussion,
mm,
so
yeah.
we're not gonna claim that it's spoiler free. I don't, at least I personally don't claim my like
Mm,
commentary on
mm.
videos about books, reading blogs as spoiler free. Just so no, so yeah, this isn't. But right now, I'm gonna tell you this is spoiler free.
Eh,
So Ray, ikaw,
Actually, when I saw the question, I actually internalized muna, no, kasi I did not really felt anything with that scene kasi I was really expecting it. I was really expecting the worst of everyone. So, going into it, parang sobrang masochist ko na talaga habang nagbabasa na parang,
ay,
I was really looking forward na someone will die in the middle or like, accident will happen because the environment was just really chaotic. It was really sad. It was something that um like you can really think of the worst thing that might happen to these characters. So going into it with the question, I really thought to myself that, you know, I knew from the beginning that this will happen. That kumbaga, first title pa lang ng book, 'di ba, with the part like it wait, I'll just check. Like, thieves and prostitutes. So, 'di ba parang ay, wait lang, 'di ba? Thieves and prostitutes. So, knowing like the first part of the book, like I knew from the beginning that there will be something like that. Like, no, there are really a lot of trigger warnings in this book, and brutality is one of them. So, knowing what I will be reading, it's like reading A Little Life from Adi LaRue. Like, I don't know if you've read that one, but it's really
Invisible Life, A
ah,
Little
ah,
Life Word.
A Little Life, A
Pinaghalo mo yung
Little
A
Life
Little
by
Life ni
Han.
Honey ang
Yeah. That's
ano
one.
ba yung
That's the one that I'm.
Adi LaRue, teka lang, nalito ako
Yeah.
to.
Oh, sorry. Well, with A Little Life rather. Sorry. Yeah, it's like the same as the. Kumbaga, I was really prepared of what I might get. So yeah. How about you?
Dito niyo ma dito niyo makikita na si Ray talaga yung mas sanay sa nagbabasa talaga ng maraming historical fiction tapos ako
Mm.
hindi. Kasi nung una parang I mean, ito totoo lang, I'm just
Mm,
keeping it
mm,
real. I was like,
mm,
I mean, ito yung tipong yung mga parang yung mga I don't know if you've been watching or searched somewhere, like the one with Anne
mm,
Frank. Like they were claimed there was like this is just based on what I've read like online, okay? Like in Anne Frank, like the one who like made like like revealed their family or something, who gave out their names or something. I forgot the exact term, but like the reason why they ended up being like in prison camps or whatever they've been
mm,
through their family is a fellow Jewish. That's what like
mm,
some of the articles are saying. So I read that at the time, and then when I was after reading that, like I was already I think around in this scene. Nandito na ako sa bandang lugar na yun nga yung parang basta nalaman ni Lina na nakikipag-ano nga sila sa parang ang ganda-ganda ng buhay, ganyan. Siyempre parang, like, it would be kind of like that's what happens in real life. And for example, you find out like, okay, we're here in you're getting that. And of course, what Andrew said is of course like, is understandable, of course. Like if you were in a situation where, you know, safety and all that, then parang may dahilan kumbaga. Everything happens for a reason, ika nga ng sabi ng isa kong mga kaibigan. Pero yeah, and I would understand, of course, like everybody's thoughts about it. Because I was like, oh my God, okay, is this another case of that? Like, that's what I was running in my head. But yeah, ano na rin ako, okay, tapos parang, okay, let's move on. Gano'n, gano'n. Move on, sige okey na walang gano'n, 'di ba? Parang pero
It is what
yun,
it is.
to be fair ayun talaga ano yun, parang alam mo yung parang kang nanonood ng isang pelikula ta's parang nagkaroon ng away na hindi mo naiintindihan, ganyan ka kasi. Pero alam mo
Oo,
ba kung ano ang sinakripisyo ng nanay ko, ganyan, ganyan. Oh my God, yun yung
mm,
pumapasok sa'yo yung eksena na yun, parang nung nalaman na ni Lina na, so, ano pala may kulang pala parang yung para sa niya parang kulang pala sa
mm,
pagkain, parang yung parang gano'ng eksena tapos parang, "You don't know Lina, you don't know."
mm.
Parang parang ba't
Yeah.
ba so to be
Parang
fair,
teleserye 'no?
naisip ko parang yun pala may drama pero mas talagang nadurog yung puso ko talaga sa The Nightingale talaga, yun talaga nadurog
Mm, mm.
talaga. Eto talaga
Totoo.
mas ano, mas pang teleserye mga, "You don't know,
Hmm,
hindi mo naiintindihan, kasaril ka kasi."
mm. Totoo, totoo, oo.
Matching
Kaya
background
kaya
music.
nga sabi ko nga, eh, parang eto yung, throughout all of the characters talagang yung mother talaga yung kumbaga the MVP of the game. Siya talaga yung pinaka nag-struck talaga sa akin. Talagang ang dami niyang ginawa, ang dami niyang sinakripisyo and yun nga, in the revelation of what she kung ano yung ginagawa talaga niya 'no, talagang ibang klase. Iba talaga ang pagmamahal ng isang ina. Oh.
Ah, yeah. Ayun, so yeah,
Ayun, ayun lang.
it's a yes, parang may matching music parang ganyan yung nararamdaman o hindi ko pa napapanood yung pelikula ha. Meron na 'di
Ako
ba?
din, ako din. Yeah,
Ah,
meron na. And ang title yata hindi Between Shades of
oh,
Grey.
Ashes and Snow.
Yeah.
Parang kinuha nila yung nasa libro gano'n, or
Mm,
sa Siberia
mm,
ganyan. Okey ikaw basahin mo itong komento ng
mm.
ating color
So
commentator. Love it, love
so
it.
similar to
Go,
Ray,
go
I wasn't
Richard.
shocked by Elena's action because uh, based on her character work, she's the type of person who loves her country but will prioritize her family first, even above herself. True. 100% true.
Though yung speaking of yung kay Andrews, yung nanay niya 'di ba yung parang talagang nag-aano dun sa ano, dun sa Soviet ta's parang ano, parang tagos yun talaga na ngayon naisip ko parang yun yung eksena talaga na parang tagos yung parang, ano sa tingin mo mararamdaman ng tatay ko 'pag nalaman niya kung anong
Mm,
ginawa ng nanay ko? Ang lakas pa-ano, lakas
yeah. Tsaka
maka-drama scene
tsaka
talaga yung
ano,
sa
tsaka
teleserye.
tsaka matalino rin si Elena, 'di ba siya yung nakikipag-usap sa ano, sa mga guard sa NV ano bang ano, I forgot
NKV,
the ano,
NKVP.
NVK NKV, yeah, mm. I know nag-ano rin siya, eh, I know, she studied abroad din. I'm not sure, pero ayun.
Pero
Kumbaga
tinanggihan
siya
niya yung
talaga
alok
yung mm.
tinanggihan niya yung alok ng NKVD 'di ba? Parang
Yeah,
gagawin dapat SPI, oo. Kasi yun din kaya parang naano parang hindi alam ko parang if I'm not mistaken, is
mm,
like that could have been Lina's mother, that could have been Elena, pero hindi ba hindi tapos parang
mm,
ay parang ayun nga punta kay ano sa nanay ni Andres yung dapat kay
mm,
Elena.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, the next question, eto, thoughts on Andrews and Lena's feelings. So, in other words, the romance
Romance, yeah.
starts.
I actually love it. Actually, gusto ko yung ending nung story na parang, alam mo yun, with Lina's epilogue talaga na naka-survive sila, reconnected, tapos eventually, 'di ba, they will get married. So, I think that's one factor din na nagustuhan ko sa book na parang after the events of what happened, nagkaroon pa rin sila ng happiness pa din 'no, despite of course what happened with the mother, Elena, 'di ba, we know the end of the story na talagang so emotional and ayun. I think that's what, a historical fiction novel is really all about. Like, whatever happens with the book um, at the end of the day, at the end of the chapter, at the end of the book, there's still a resolution and there's still happiness pa rin naman, 'no? So I think that's one good with Ruta's writing na she put because this is like as YA. This is a YA historical fiction. So I think the romance in this book is really necessary for young audiences that despite with because we talk about a lot of things, World War II, family, and the atmospheric vibe of this one. So I think that's one good factor then, the romance. So yeah, 100% I love the romance of this book. Ship ko sila.
Ah,
Ikaw naman.
sakto lang. Parang ano, kasi may mga madalas kasi 'pag sa ganitong mga uri ng aklat, parang sinasabi
Mm,
'pag kunyari may mga lovey-dovey scenes, parang
mm.
parang pilit, parang siningit,
Yeah.
gano'n. Sakto lang, parang hindi naman
Mm.
siya ano, hindi ko naman siya parang sakto lang, parang yun, it's like, it just happens anyway in life every now and then for most teenagers. I'm not saying all, most
Mm.
teenagers, remember, most teenagers. Okay, so like, pero ayos lang, parang ganun. Gusto ko na marinig yung thoughts ni Ray.
Maganda. I like it, you know? Kasi 'di ba sobrang ano ko nga nung binabasa ko 'to, sobrang negative na ako dahil nga sa mga nangyayari. So, adding up with the romance, it's also good. I love it talaga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Itong susunod na tanong, ito yung eksena kasi na parang yung sino nga yung repeater ba yun or yung basta may isang character na sobrang attached or yung may tawag sa kanya, hindi repeater nga ba yun? Yung we're going to America, gano'n. So,
Mm.
okay, teka bago natin sagutin, comment, okay. For Richard, the level of the romance reached was a little too much, but I recognize how realistic it was because when experiencing everything they've gone through, you hold on to every source of hope you can.
Mm.
Mga dapat sama-sama ka na lang.
Sama-sama ka sama-sama Richard, eh, inuwas ka namin.
First every quarter. Oh my gosh, ito yung unang first month for the quarter na hindi natin kasama si Richard. Ano masasabi mo tong Richard? Comment down below.
Okey lang 'yan. Madami pang ano, live
Daming spam
discussion.
to. Marami pa, hindi kami mawawala. Okay. Alright, and so going back, so let me repeat. So yun nga, yung kay, tawag doon, kay, yung repeater ba yun or so may isang character doon na we're going to America. Did you think that they were going to America right away? Did you think, I mean, assuming that whether you have knowledge of like what happened during like, during the Soviet occupation, Soviet ruling. So, yeah, like, but do you think that there was a chance that they were going to America right away? Did you think that that they will be?
I think no. Parang feel ko hindi. Feeling ko mas mahihirapan lang sila doon.
Puwede ba alam mo yung sinasabi ko 'di ba yung eksena na yun, lagi sila yung parang
Hmm,
yung galing sila dun sa yung kay yung kasama pa nila si Andres parang sumakay sila sa tren tapos parang si kuya mo parang, punta tayong Amerika, sa Amerika tayo pupunta." Parang ang weird kasi parang ang layo nun, ang layo tapos I mean
nga.
even Alaska at the time, I don't think it was still annexed if I'm not mistaken or even
Mm,
if it was, it's still far at
mm,
saka parang although aminin ko other part of me was like, "Oh, magkakaroon na naman ba ulit ng USA savior na magaganap dito sa
mm,
kuwento." Kasi yung sa ano, sa kaso naman nung kay Adolf Hitler na, yung historical fiction na tungkol kay Adolf Hitler kasi sa Poland talaga siya nakaset, yung Mapping the Bones, yung
hmm,
natanggap ko kay JM. Ano, parang yung katapusan nun, spoiler warning about that, is that the Americans came and saved them. So parang sabi ko, may kakaroon ba ng
oh,
ganito pang mangyayari dito? Teka lang, hindi ko kasi masyadong, ano pa nga, yung kasaysayan nga nito eh. Aminin ko, parang yun nga. So, pero yeah, I guess in the story, like, in terms of like how a story is written, I kind of like doubt it as well that they will go to America or like another American savior is gonna suddenly appear and then like rescue them or something like that. So yeah, yeah. So yakapin na natin si Richard. Huwag natin si Richard. Hug, hug, hug,
hmm.
hug. Huwag natin si Richard. Huwag natin si Richard. Huwag natin. Close up na yun. Nakita niyo yung mukha ko naka-close.
Close up.
Close up. Ayan. So, ayan. So, yeah. Then next. Oh my gosh, ang bilis natin. Napakakalmado kasi natin.
Kalma, yeah,
Ang kalmado ng live stream na 'to.
yeah.
Napaka-firm namin.
Subtle lang.
Subtle lang. Napaka
Yeah.
Kahinhin, gano'n. Wala masyadong segue, parang nga yung libro 'di ba, agad-agad,
Yeah.
"Hoy, halika na kayo," ganyan.
Mm.
'To, ano 'to, wag na natin ba okay. Alright, and then yeah, okay. I believe it was a case of extremes because people really were migrated to America because the US and Soviet Union were allies, but in the case of Lena's group, they'd be part of the spectrum. Sorry, kasi
Yeah,
timing
I
sila
agree with
so
this one. Yeah. Mm-mm.
yeah, and I think really the book is gonna make you want to search more about like Stalin really. So about and his like governance overall. So is what
Mm-mm.
I can say. It's what I can say. So yeah, they'd be part in the other part of the spectrum. So, but in the case of Lena's group, they're be part of the other, or they be part of the other spectrum. So ganon.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
we're live.
Mhm.
So yeah, okay, okay. All right. So, and then next would be now this is something and like I said, this is kind of like towards the end of the book, like when there was like the informant and then who said like, oh, um, there is a chance that your dad is alive, Lena. So, because it
Mm.
wasn't like revealed, I was actually kind of looking forward to it in the epilogue, but it wasn't
Yeah.
revealed. So, pero ikaw, di mo ba na ano, may nakita ni Lina uli yung tatay niya kaya
Mm. I think hindi. No. I think I feel like ano, her dad is already gone. I mean, as in like her mother. Yeah. I knowing the ano, knowing the story, feeling ko lang. Ikaw?
ano, para akong si Lina.
Feeling
Sana kumapit.
mm,
Kumapit.
kumapit.
Ako, oo,
Mm.
totoo lang parang ano, kumakapit pa. Parang gusto kong malaman kung ano yung parang talagang nangyari talaga.
Mm.
Parang gusto kong malaman talaga. So,
Mm.
oo, sana, pero yung gusto ko parang gano'n.
Sana, 'di ba?
Oo,
Mm.
yung katapusan,
Parang
yung katapusan bago mag-epilogue, yun talaga. Yun yung ano,
mm. Mm.
para
Sana
akong
nagkaroon ng ano 'no, sana nagkaroon ng ano, something na kasi 'di ba ang ginawa ni Lina is nag-ano siya, nag-ano siya ng letter na papapunta sa tatay niya para masabi na naka-survive sila, right?
yun. Tapos
Tama 'di ba?
parang
Ah.
oo. Tapos parang gusto kong naiisip ko sa eksena na yun, yung sa katapusan niya, parang nandun siya sa isang parang cliff, sa isang bangin. O yung basta yung parang nakatingin sa malayo. Sa then there's
Mm.
wind, and then she was just
Ah,
thinking, "Someday Andrews, I'll be there." Ganun yung tumatakbo sa utak ko, gano'n.
oo, 'di ba? Parang
Ay,
nakakalungkot nga 'no, parang hindi tayo nagkaroon ng ano, hindi nagkaroon ng parang, um,
kangay parang walang closure, gano'n.
yeah.
Parang gano'n, so gano'n.
Naalala ko
Ay,
tuloy si ano, si Ryan Bang, si Yeng.
eto, "Uy, ikaw magbasa nito, ikaw magbasa. Read it out loud." Naka-mic off ka, naka-mute ka. Ay, sige, yan.
May maingay kasi, sorry.
Ke ke Keri lang. Oh, tindi daw. Ayan. Oo, ayan.
Tsaka I also read some of historical fiction din set during this time. Yeah, there's really a huge like chance talaga na they won't survive. Like it's really yeah, it's really harsh talaga, with the Russians. So yeah, feel ko lang Luis hindi naka-survive yung ano niya,
Sana sinabi na lang din niya pati dun
fighting.
sa ano, yung nangyari din dun more or less dun sa kanila, yung nakumpirma niya yung gano'n. May sulat na nga dun sa parang sana sabi na din.
Mm.
Sana sinabi na din niya yung sa Dear, if you found this treasure, sabi ko,
Mm.
sabi niya kung ilan sila. Although parang hindi niya rin naman din kasi na din siguro nabanggit, pero yung closure, tsaka sana naman parang kahit sa huling sandali, gano'n. Sa huling
Yeah.
sandali. Ayan tuloy, nararamdaman ko na tuloy. Sabi ko wala akong
Bakit
nararamdaman.
nakakalulungkot na tuloy ako.
Nalulungkot na ako. Nalulungkot na kami, Richard. Tumatawa.
Ay naku.
Pero yun, anyway. So, oh my gosh. Yun na, yun na yun. Yun na yun. Yun na. Yun na yung ating mga tanong. Napakabilis. Napakabilis. Wala na kasi tayong mga segue, di ba? Wala kasi tayong, ito, dagdagan natin ng tanong kasi marami may oras pa tayo. May naiisip pa ba mga libro na ma-associate mo ito?
Um,
May malilink ka bang libro sa mga nakaraan
Tagal.
natin?
With this one? Wala, actually wala. Kasi mga ang mga binabasa natin more on like, but I think ano,
About
yung
the
trope
kahit
na family.
themes and
Yeah,
ayun,
family, about family din, 'yan. I think yun yung ano natin, medyo malapit na about
ay
family,
galing,
sacrifices, yeah, oo. Ano ba
galing.
mga libro natin nun?
Ako ang unang pumasok
Ang
sa
dami na
isip
kasi.
ko ang pumasok sa isip ko alam mo kung ano?
Oo.
Crooked Kingdom kasi dahil mga
Bukod
pangalan.
Kingdom. Tsaka I think yung yung BOTM natin yung Save the Date, 'di ba? Oh, family,
Yan.
kasama si
Oo,
Richard
medyo
nun.
malalim. Oo, All the
Yeah,
Light.
and
Hindi pa
with
namin naging BOTM yung All the Light, hindi pa namin.
and I think
Gusto mo
ang ano ni Richard,
mag-BOTM? Kasama ka
yeah.
namin. Gusto mo, ikaw. All the Light, we can
Actually na nai-intimidate ako sa libro na 'yan. Maganda ba Richard? Is
comment
it
ka
good? Parang
Richard.
I feel like, lagi siyang nare-recommend sa'kin and sumali na ako before ng buddy read pero hindi ko tinuloy. Hindi ako natuloy, hindi ko nabasa. So, maganda ba, Richard?
Hintayin natin kung ano
Mm,
masasabi.
mm,
Yan, habang hinihintay natin, ayun, ano pa ba?
mm.
So, ayun,
Meron
so
meron pa
anything
akong may
ay,
isa pa akong ruta dito, eh. Yung
ilang
ruta na
basa ko na yan, pero I love this book.
ito,
Ang basa ko na yan. Salt to
maganda
the
ba 'to?
Sea.
I think parang companion ba 'to ng Between Shades of Grey?
Sa ano rin ba siya? Siberia or Russian
Actually,
Federation din ba? Ang gusto ko rin basahin,
1945.
1945. Saan yung ano?
Ah,
Pero gusto kong basahin yung ano, yung Fountain, some Fountains of
The Fountains of
Silence ba yun?
Silence.
Kasi parang
Yeah,
sa Spain ba yun? So
yeah, Spain siya.
I haven't really read much about it. So
Maganda
mga
siya,
ganun.
mm. Pero mas
Medyo
maganda 'to in fairness. Mas maganda yung Between Shades of Grey than The
Between
Fountains.
Shades of Grey. Tama ba rinig ko 50 Shades?
50 Shades of Grey?
Ano na rin, yun yung dinig ko. Teka.
Between Shades of Grey.
Between Shades of Grey. Oo, Ashes and Snow. So, yun. So, ayan. Pang ilang basa na daw niya. Ilang basa. Marami na daw beses siya nabasa. Pero pwede ka pa rin naman mag-guest host kahit ilang basa mo na yan. So, ayun. Tapos, ano pa? Pero I'm looking forward to read more of Ruta Sepetys' works. I'm actually kind of intrigued with Salt to the Sea as well. Maybe we can have it one of the future months. Who knows?
Ayoko
Um,
na masaktan.
oo. Pero
Wala,
yun nga,
maawa ang
kasi, ano yun?
yeah. Sabi ko ayoko lang masaktan kasi, usually ngayon na binabasa ko mga light ano lang, light, contemporary, mga ano, mga chill-chill lang. Ayoko na ng ano, kasi sobrang grabe yung mga libro ni Ruta talaga. Parang masakit sa ano, sa puso.
Siguro mas masakit kasi sa'kin nung mga panahon na yun yung bakuna kaysa sa yung libro. Baka kaya ano, kasi naalala ko sa PhilPworks kasi nga naging 'di ba
Mm,
sabi naging BOTM na
oo,
FYI, this
mhm,
became one of the book of the months of PhilPworks. If y'all know what PhilPworks is or was, whatever you wanna call it. I mean, it still is technically existing. Hindi naman talaga kami nag-disband or anything, whatever. We're just not too active anymore. But yeah, anyway, with PhilBorgs, it was our book of the month in March 2019. And I heard a lot of people said like their hearts were shattered. Skinip ko kasi I wasn't like in the mood at the time to read
mm,
Between Shades of Grey. Pero yung mga kasama ko noon, yeah, nagbasa sila. Tapos parang, ang sakit, ganyan,
yeah.
gano'n. Oo. Si Annie nga pala, mahilig din si Annie.
Hindi ako
Si
yeah,
Annie
yeah. Actually
Roda.
nag-ano ako, oo,
Oo.
yeah, si Annie. Actually hindi ako kasali dun sa Philipboard kasi hindi ko pa na-discover. Hindi ko pa na-discover na meron palang ano, parang book parang Facebook group ng Filipino na ano, mahilig magbasa.
Oo. Tsaka 2020 ka nag-debut, 'di ba? 2020 ka
Mm.
nag-debut. Oo,
Pero
2019
dati kasi 2020 nanonood na ako ng ano, ng booktube ng Filipino booktubers nung 2020. So, pero ayun nga, hindi ko pa alam na may Facebook pala
yeah.
na
So they
Philipboards.
were so they were like saying that it was heart-wrenching, shattering. So parang
Mm,
siguro baka dahil pa sa mga sabi ko, yun, kaya sabi ko parang mas nadurog ako dun sa The Nightingale kasi parang
mm, mm,
nung naging BOTM niyo yun ano ba ito?
mm.
For
Sa
what
mga
books? Readables,
kalimot ko yun.
readables,
Pero naman
readables,
siya. Yeah,
or readables, ayun. So parang
yeah.
ano ko na, parang sabi ko sa'yo, parang madudurog na yung puso ko dito. So sabi ko sa inyo,
Mm,
kay Dre din natin sinasabi ko, so parang gano'n. So ayun.
mm.
Pero yun
Yeah,
nga, baka
yeah.
ngayon nga, mas masakit yung bakuna kaysa sa ano, bakuna.
Yeah.
Yes. So there. Anything else you want to share before we kind of like wrap up our
Ah.
like our live
Wala
share?
naman na. Wala naman, pero let's discuss din yung ano, yung, BOTM natin for Feb.
Okay. So our book of the month for February is. Do you have it already? Do you have a copy? No, you don't. But yeah.
Actually, hindi ko pa nabubuksan.
Oh, okay. Okay, ayos lang.
Ah,
So our book of the month for February 2022 would be Slay by Brittany Morris. So yes, I've been anticipating, I've been wanting to read this one, so I'm definitely excited to read it. And yes, this follows the story of a girl. I think she's more like a gamer. So definitely
yeah.
this is like my first time reading a gaming kind of book. I haven't read even Ready
Mm.
Player One as well, so or Warcross. So
I
it would
think
be a very
feeling ko, you won't like the ano, Ready Player One.
at tingin
I
mo,
believe based on the taste
the
ng
days.
books, feeling ko
Series
lang,
kasi siya na parang malaman natin. Oh my gosh.
but it was good.
Ooh. All right. Oh, wait lang. So merong pahabol ang ating. My
Gretzky.
question ako, what can you say about the character of Gretzky? From what I remember, he's Lithuanian, di ba? Or parang he's half Lithuanian, half Polish. Parang basta hindi siya purong Russian. Tas parang,
Mm,
I mean, how do I say this? Uh, an example of like how flawed human beings can be is what I can say. Because I can see that he was kind of like doing things out of
mm,
not really in his own will. Yung, yung naiiyak na siya dun sa parang may eksena na parang naiiyak siya. Ba yun? Parang doon mo makikita na parang ako sa akin na parang nakikita. Tapos parang ano pa nun si Lina parang iniisip ko, comfort ko ba to? Hindi, parang gano'n. Pero at least
mm.
parang sumagi, parang,
Yeah.
parang gusto ko yung comfort. Parang, yun yung may isip mo na parang ano, parang yung ibang ginagawa niya parang napipilitan siya.
mm.
Parang
Tapos
gano'n.
parang 'di ba siya yung ano, siya yung, soldier, if I'm not mistaken, or the
Oo, parang
guard,
siya yung
and became
oo, Nikolai
friends
ba
with
yun? Yung
Elena.
other name is Nikolai.
Yung naging friend ni ano, ni Elena, tama ba? Yung mother.
Oo, parang gano'n,
Yeah, I
oo.
think yeah. Tapos yeah, as far as I remember parang siya yung soldier na parang na ano, nalungkot siya nung nawala si Elena. So, yeah, parang kahit part siya ng, pero I don't like his character pala kasi naalala ko siya yung nagpahirap sa kuwento. Yeah,
Kaya like
parang,
I said, parang sabi ko nga parang flawed, like the
parang
imperfections of
ano
like
siya, parang 50-50 siya, eh, 'di ba? Parang, he is doing his job, but at the same time, he has sympathy din with Elena when Elena dies. So, yeah, hate, love, I don't know. But it was a good character din. Parang I remember nainis ako sa kanya that time. Yeah.
ayan. Mukhang maraming sources 'tong si Richard ng tanong,
Mm.
kanyang utak at baka meron din siyang mga audiences. Moderator daw, char moderator. Okay. Anyway, so there are several reasons why the book is entitled Between Shades of Grey. From your point of view, why is it so? Char moderator. Well, for one is of course the setting. I can tell that like
Mm.
the setting of being in Siberia, it's more of gray skies. Really, it's not like tundras are not like very colorful or lush kind of places. It's much more darker, and there's this like thing about like for places like in the northern part of the hemisphere, like they have longer nights and like longer days, kind of
Mm,
like
yeah.
they have those things, and I think between the shades of gray, aside from like the scenes itself, kasi sinabi
Mm,
din mismo dun sa libro yung scenes mismo na parang may gray, tapos and and come to think of it, like what we were mentioning based on like the questions and the things that were being asked, there's a lot of gray areas. Kaya naka-gray kami.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ikaw naman, Ray.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with you. Parang nabanggit mo na lahat. Wala ka na natira, wala kang tinira. Yeah, I agree with Luis 'no, parang, it's yun nga yung longer time no ano. And also I think it really represent all of the things that happened, like, the imperfection and the torture, the brutality. Also signifies then the title Between Shades of Grey. So, yeah, ayun.
Ito daw, ayan.
Natuwa at
Natuwa at
na-inspire ako
na-inspire ako
sa
sa discussion.
yeah. Ay, have you read it pala, sorry. Kailan mo siya nabasa, Richard?
Sige, Richard.
Mm.
Yeah, si Richard na ano talaga, parang sabi ko, "Oh my gosh, gusto ko ng magkuwento." Ano na ako, gusto ko na magkuwento nito, eh, sabi ko kay Richard
Mm.
nun, eh. So, yeah, inspired because when I finished reading it's that life has no black and whites, it's about the different shades of gray.
Mm.
True,
Yeah, true.
true. Very tea, very tea,
Mm,
very tea. Very
mm.
Okey lang tayo
Sabi
nagbasa,
lang ako.
oo, na ano natin 'yan, nakumbinsi, gano'n daw, kumbinsi ka na.
Tsaka sobrang
Okey,
bilis lang niya. Ah, sa mga readers who are interested na magbasa ng, Between Shades of Grey, it's really fast. Sobrang iksi lang niya. Parang you will not really feel the boredness of the book kahit historical fiction siya and, set in World War II. Because some people, I actually have, like, friends na they don't like it kasi they feel like, "Ay, maboboring ako dito, parang history lang naman 'yan," something like that. It's a no. It's really entertaining and, emotional, right? So, yeah, if you are really, leaning parang if you wanted to have or like first time reading historical fiction, Between Shades of Grey is the first thing. It's a good, first book to read with, the genre historical fiction. Yeah.
ayun. So overall thoughts, it's a seamlessly done book, and I'm definitely looking forward
Mm,
to read more books by Ruta Sepetys.
mm.
So True. Usually, historical fiction is quite hard to read if you're not used to it, but
Mm,
this book is a good
mm,
introduction to the genre because of the seamless writing and the short chapters. Yes, short chapters.
mm,
That's like my
yeah,
favorite. I mean, if you're like me, yeah.
mm,
So, and also, I think it depends also on the topic because I think for one, like I always say, I've always mentioned this, like every now and then when it comes to reading tastes being discussed, sometimes it may cultural aspects may affect it on, and probably if let's say you're not really necessarily aware of like the culture, it's like you have set your mind to like I'm going to be interested in reading about even fictional stories that are set within this like specific culture like time or so yeah, I do get it, but it was really done really well. So
mm,
so far I'm interested, like, because yeah, it's kind of like because I think like sometimes like this, like even like historical fiction books may come off at times like I'm not saying like they're like classics, but like they have, if you know what I mean, like they have like this sort of classic vibes because they were set like in a different time. So it's like you have to like immerse yourself and be in that state of I am in this time. So it's like so that the narrative would be something that I can devour and really enjoy. So parang basta pag nasa mood ka ng 1950s Spain, go. Kung nandun ka sa um, American occupation, Philippine era, sa may labas ng Metro Manila, go. Oh, by the way, if you're looking for a kind of book like that, American occupation, set in the Philippines, set like outside Manila, read, hold on a minute, alam to ni Richard eh. Nasa to ni Richard eh. Alam niya to. Binasa ko to for Asian Readathon noong 2019. Don't Talk by
don't talk.
BLouRay.
Mm,
I think maraming copy nito sa National Bookstore pa. Baka. Tingin ko. Wala.
mm,
So,
okey, sige.
yun.
Baka ano,
So,
kung may
yeah.
Kindle niyan magki-Kindle ako. Naka-book buying man ako, eh.
Oh, baka meron naman din sa ano.
Naka-book buying man
Anyway,
ako ngayon.
yeah, Candy BLouRay naman kasi I think has like
Mm, mm,
parang parang nililimpag naman yung libro niya sa ibang
hmm,
bansa din. She's like
ibang
UK
bansa.
based, but she's Filipino.
Yeah, I think meron. Let's see.
So yeah.
Yes, iyon. My final thoughts pala, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good book. It's a fast-paced book, well-written, well-researched. I have to say, like, I think Ruta is actually from Lithuanian. I'm not sure ha, pero parang family niya, one of
Yung nanay
her
niya ata parang
family.
sinabi niya yung nanay niya, I think it was in the acknowledgements
Mm,
portion, I
mm,
think if I'm not mistaken, like her mom was like the family of
hmm,
Joanna,
mm,
like they were them, and then she found out like stories from like Alina, like that's
yeah.
yeah.
Kaya talagang ano, it was well-researched. Sige, daan muna kayo. Yeah, it's it's a well-written, well-researched book talaga, it's from the heart talaga. Why I believe, from the heart, from Ruta talaga, she really did well with this one, and, I think this was published 2014, tama ba?
Wait up, hold
Mm.
up.
Kumbaga it's a title na it's a backlist title, but, in the present time when you read it, it it doesn't really varies. Kumbaga hindi siya
Ito lang,
nagre-reflect na parang luma
2011,
yung book. 2011, right?
2011,
So, hmm.
talagang
So, yeah, 'di ba kasi 'di ba may mga books tayo na for example na parang, 'pag binasa mo ngayon hindi na siya gano'n ka-appealing na book. So, yeah, with this one talaga, kahit whenever you feel like you wanted a historical fiction set in this kind of era, talagang it's really, interesting to read. So, yeah. Again, 5 out of 5 stars.
okay. Right. So yes, I've said my thoughts earlier. So we are now going to proceed with, so as mentioned, our book of the month for February 2022 would be Slay by Brittany Morris. So and then yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Kung meron lang na parang yung ano, alam mo yung parang
Oo.
pag sa mga ano, mga office chats, yung may palakpak
Napalakpak,
emoji.
ayan,
Oo,
ano na,
gano'n. Palaki yung gaganon, gaganyan,
oo, it
ganyan.
also yeah, it also raised awareness then of what really happened during that time. 'Di ba siyempre yung iba, it's also ano, an eye opener, that's what I wanna say, an eye opener to everyone.
Sabi ko nga 'di ba magpapabasa ka ng ano, mapapabasa ka ng mga tungkol
Mm,
sa yun nga, governance system,
curiosity,
Soviet
yeah.
Union, and all that, like,
Mm,
yeah, and all the topics related to that. So,
mm.
okay, so susunod natin is magpi-picture taking muna ba or SOCMED?
Yeah,
Sige,
picture.
picture taking. Teka, ganito na lang. Iisip ako ng pose eh. Yeah.
Yay! Clap, clap, clap.
Clap, clap, clap. Check, check, check. Baksu. Baksu.
Mm.
Yeah. So, social media accounts. So, Rig, you may go first.
Okay. So my social media accounts on BookTube, it's Ray Reads PH, and then on Instagram, Ray that reads, and on Twitter, Ray the Reader.
Okay. And yes. And yes, also, of course, Stream Child by Mark Lee. Yes, please. Stream Child by Mark Lee. PSA, Stream Child by Mark Lee of NCT. Y'all need to stream that. Thank you very much. And so, na-plug ko na ang bagong kanta ni Mark Lee. So, aside from Mark Lee, also stream Smiley by Yena if you want to smile, smile, smile. Okay? So, my social media accounts, so of course, Instagram and Twitter, louisity underscore 524, Kumu, louisity, and of course, you are in my channel, so it's, of course, youtube.com/louisity, and yes, my channel name, of course, louisity. So if you're watching this right now and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I post my videos. So yeah, ayun. So anything else before we wrap
Uh,
things up?
yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who watched, and for Richard, thank you so much for all of the comments on the chat box. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for everyone for watching and looking forward. Stay tuned to our social media accounts on when our live show is going to be for Slay by Brittany Morris, and hopefully we are going to slay.
Yeah, slay.
Slay. Hashtag slay pa more. All right. Thank
Alright, thank you so
y'all.
much, guys.
Guys,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, thank you.
You.
Thank you,
Annyeong.
Luis.
Paalam.